Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Live or die. Make your choice.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know. And they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
They're here.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
From the studio that brought you Saw and Hostel comes the best horror thriller since Alien.
I saw someone! No, it's the dark. It plays tricks on people.
This is not good, guys.
The Descent. Rated R. In theaters everywhere August 4th.
There we go. Hey, back to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. We are the tail end of the Tales of Horror, and it's great to be back on here to talk about The Descent today. It's been a little bit of a break since I've last recorded any Tales of Horror episodes, so super eager. Great to be back in the chair and talking about horror movies again. Gaius, thanks again for making the time to get me in today.
No problem. And thanks to the wonderful scheduling that we've done. For you guys, you got to hear Jackson pretty much 3 weeks in a row. Episode 198, which was Creep. 199 was the Hitcher, and then 200 we talked about Coherence in the Cell. So that worked out listening wise.
Right. Different behind the scenes.
Yes, yeah. Listening wise to hear Jackson. Now for listening wise, as far as like the other episodes that will be out, that have been out before you hear this one. We had a pretty good problem where we had so many people that wanted to do Tales of Horror, and then we were also trying to schedule it, with the 200th episode, and didn't want to make an extra show with a guest who's ever been on. If Jackson wasn't going to be on, that basically 200 couldn't happen without Jackson being on it.
That's right.
We had to like kind of hold some of those episodes until after 200 came out, and then I looked at the time of month it was. I was like, oh, October is almost over, and not like I felt like I paid attention to it, but I mean,
it just flew by.
It
quick month.
It really did. So I sat up one night and okay, I have a handful of episodes. This is how much time, or at least a gap I want to leave between 200 and putting out another one. But these other ones need to come out basically daily and in a row. And I didn't even consult with playlists if that was okay. I just I uploaded them all onto the Google Drive, put all the descriptions out like they were there. So I was like, hey, everything's there on our little, Tales of Horror intro. They know that goes on the top of the episode. And then, we put on like the TV spot for each movie we're talking about at the beginning of each different film that's being discussed. So I felt like I laid it out like easy enough, but then I was like, it's still, I don't know exactly. It seems like an easy editing job, but from what I know, they listen to it to make sure there's not like dead air and other stuff that you have to take out. So they still have to listen to each one. So I was like, oh, well, it was a handful of episodes. Hope for the best. And the first email I got was like, oh, let's see. I'll talk to the team and see if they can do it. And I was like, and if you can't, we'll figure out another way to do it. Like we'll push something back. Like we'll extend it. I mean, who cares if it extends into November a little bit? It's fine.
Right.
And then like I think it was the Friday, they were like, oh no, we can actually do that. And it's not I don't know if it's like most ideal. I think this schedule works, and I will say this for I've always been apologetic, like, hey, and honest, like, we don't edit the show ourselves. Like, that's all playlists. They do that for us. If it was us, there's no way that the daily episodes would come out like that. But since someone else does it, it made it a lot easier to get them out there. And I sent them an email just basically thanking them for
putting in overtime.
And putting in the work to get it done, and actually scheduling it the way that I asked them to schedule it. And they could have easily been like, hey, we can't do it, we figure out something else. And they've been really good about it. And honestly, it looks kind of cool the way they've done it, because it's almost been like this sort of countdown of like almost like 7 days to
almost
Halloween
like an
kind of thing.
Calendar of episodes.
Yeah. So like that, it worked out in a weird kind of way. And each new day has been a different horror movie. I think right now, as of this recording on it's Tuesday, the 29th, those daily episodes that have come out have been Halloween Kills, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, The Prowler, and I think Stir of Echoes came out too. So those are all like day after day after day. But you guys have been taking your time to listen to each one and not forgetting one because another one comes out. So it worked out. I was telling Jackson, I don't know if I would do this again. But for the sake of this scheduling, it worked out.
Yeah. Big content push from Back to the Blockbuster. And gotta say, playlist has never let us down. Whatever we've thrown at them, whatever schedule changes and episode mishaps there may have been, they've worked through it, and they're awesome. They're great. And I don't know much of what goes on behind the scenes over there, but like you said, they do listen, they do edit things. They got to make sure that we're on track in our episodes, and any auditory mistakes there might be, they're there to correct. And you know what? It's a tall order, and they're fantastic. So if they're listening to this, big appreciation from both of us.
Yeah, definitely. And since we love horror movies, we don't really care if an episode talking about a horror film extends into the early days of November. So it's
exactly.
I mean, there's a whole Thanksgiving horror movie out there now. Like, do you watch Thanksgiving during like spooky season, or do you watch that during the Thanksgiving season now? Like, where does that movie fall as a horror film?
I like to think that holiday themed horror movies are applicable to either one. Kind of depends which one you're in the mood for. We've already had our Thanksgiving in Canada, but yours is in November, right? Like mid-November.
Yeah.
But because it's an American movie and it's about American Thanksgiving, maybe I'll give that a rewatch if I find the time in my schedule, because I saw that. Was that a 2023 or 2022 release?
Yeah, I think 2023. Yeah, I think. And
wow.
I actually just got. They sent the seal book to me. I don't have it out right now, but
wow,
really cool. I didn't have a physical copy of it, so that was cool to get. But yeah, I was wondering about that, like, because I was like, hey, it's a good slasher movie to watch. Maybe I can sneak it in. But the last week of spooky season, I feel like I have certain favorites that I just don't switch out.
The ones you got to get in before the end of the season.
Yeah, so I'm pretty a creature of habit when it comes to that. But maybe I love holiday horror movies. Like, that's a good one. I'm wondering if like something like Black Christmas, will that be like your unconventional Christmas movie? Like you like throw that in there. Like,
when we were talking about holiday themed horror movies like a second ago, Black Christmas came to mind, and that's one that I might try. Cam just watched it earlier this year once I told him how fucking awesome that movie was, how much I loved it. So I think that otherwise that would be a great movie for him and I to watch. But I think I might try and get my girlfriend in on that one around Christmas time, because I won't be sitting down to watch The Polar Express or The Grinch probably. She might. She always lets me pick the movies. I might give her some holiday leeway. But I would like to get that in this time around. And that was a 74 release. Is that turning 50 this year?
Yeah. So maybe I pulled the trigger. Talking about it too early last year, but like, you know what would be an interesting thing to do is you haven't seen the remake. There's two of them.
Oh shit, you're right.
There's the 2000.
There's an idea.
I think the 2006 one came out, and that one is a remake of the original movie. And
just forget about the 2020s one. I won't do it.
that's a remake in name only.
The
second one. But it might be a cool thing to like
fun.
Be a cool one to like kind of maybe compare both movies. In an episode, people like when we actually talk about two movies on one episode. So
let's book it in. We were just thinking about anniversary episodes, and that could be a great idea. Before we launch into Descent, though, Gaius, you said that you had some stuff you wanted to share about feedback from episode 200, which just came out on Wednesday, so right over a week as of probably the time that everyone's listening to this. And I haven't had the chance to see much of that. I've been totally wrapped up, so this will be just the first time that I get to see this stuff too, and I'm really eager to see what the listeners thought. I was pumped.
Yeah,
Still riding that high, getting that out of the way. My mom shared this big post of our promo on.
Yeah, we got an influx of followers on Instagram after
I saw that
posted that. So I was like looking, I was like, where are all these people come from? And then I saw that she posted it, and very nice of her to. I mean, because of course you're her son, so she could easily just post you, but very nice for her.
Right.
She actually posted both videos on her.
She loves
story.
You.
and then she actually said something very, very nice in the comment section as well. So I thought that was really cool. And my mom listens to the show in like bulk. So like she doesn't do it every week, but like there'll be like a period where she's like, all right, I'll just listen to like 3 or 4 in a row. She has very similar sentiments to your mother that she's just very surprised by. I guess everyone's still surprised, but like I mean, she's like, I like that you guys get along really well, and you definitely have like good like banter and chemistry. But she's like, you haven't hung out, so she's like, it's a Scooby-Doo mystery to me, but like as long as you guys understand it, I guess that works.
She was the support of mothers.
Yeah, I don't think it's weird at this point.
No.
Friends are still like scratching their heads.
It was always an instant connect, and it's been fantastic ever since. And I don't question it at all, quite honestly. If anything, it'll be different when we do meet for the first time. It's nice to see you outside of the screen, but no, this is like second.
Yes. So some people were what they wanted to basically say about a lot of congratulations on the 200 episode that we got to that milestone.
Thank you, everybody.
And that I guess the big thing is that they were just proud of how the show has evolved over time. And I have a friend who's, of course, listened to it since the beginning, and it knows how it changed a lot.
Intimately familiar,
And he was just like, it doesn't. He did wonder how can, like, if you want to go back and because I actually took a little bit of a course last week about just like online about podcasting and stuff like that. Like,
cool.
And there was like a lot in there about repurposing your old episodes, and I was like, well, I can't really do that like to a certain point because certain people, if I go too far back, those people aren't on there anymore, and it'll just be me. Like, how do you repurpose those episodes? But that's one of the biggest compliments from a few people was that like it just feels like a different show. Like in the last like 100 and some odd episodes since like specifically since you've been on, that it feels like a completely new thing, almost like you spun it off within your spinoff. And that was very nice people to say. They
appreciate that.
They like the 2 movies that we picked. You got a lot of comments on Coherence that some people had never heard of it.
Right, so that was the case with me. Yep.
So they were really cool that they found something new to watch. I got a few messages about that. They actually thought it was cool that we picked not 2 similar movies, but not, I didn't, one wasn't like a drama and the other one wasn't like a thriller, I guess.
Both sci-fi.
Yeah, which is why I didn't pick 25th Hour. Like a lot of people wanted me to, that was the big one that they're like, you can finally make it watch it.
Favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, no, it would like, it'd be jarring to jump from, that to, a drama that
like within the conversation.
That has like 9/11 as its backdrop, basically. Like that'd be really interesting and weird. But yeah, and there was one person I had to kind of like a bet on if you would like this cell or not. I was like, I think he's gonna like it. For some reason, they thought you were gonna be like visually it's cool, but the rest of it not so much. But then they listened to the episode and they were like, oh, he did seem like he enjoyed the topic. So there,
I liked it more than I probably would have thought I would going in. And that was a treat. It's always nice to see something that you put me on for the first time because that's easier said than done. I know it's even harder with you, especially like I figured Coherence would be one of those ones like it's very obscure. I didn't expect, or I didn't really know, but with the cell, I do have a bad track record, especially with those late 90s movies I haven't seen. They're kind of hit or miss, but that was definitely a visual treat for sure.
Yeah. And one big thing that they want to congratulate us on, even though we're doing our best to make it seem like while you're busy and while you're in classes that you are on as much as you can be on, they're like, hey, not in a bad way. We can't tell that he's not there all the time, but like you guys are getting through it, and they feel like this will probably be, if there's an obstacle, don't really want to call it one.
Right.
But if there is an obstacle, this will probably be the hardest one. Of like, hey, you guys weren't able to record on your normal schedule every week.
Right.
It's clear that like, you're compensating for him not being there, but you have a lot of people that are willing to help.
And doing a great job
alongside.
at it, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Not even a beat missed.
Yeah. So that was one big compliment that we got, that we're doing the best that we can without like, dealing with that. And it's not even like a big, like we already knew it was coming. Like you told me a long time ago. Actually, you told me very early on. About this. And and then that kind of schedule changed a little bit, where it was supposed to happen that one time, and that changed, and
that's right. Delayed
adjusted from that. Yeah. So it wasn't a curveball. I think some people might think it was, and it wasn't. It wasn't like.
But we were aware.
We were always aware.
That's something exactly. I couldn't just like leave you hanging and give you a month's notice or a few weeks' notice that the schedule would be all over the place. We were just talking about this off screen, actually. So that's kind of funny that is addressed. I love that, and it's nice to see these hurdles or these curveballs are acknowledged, and to see like, and to be appreciated about how the show has been kept up. By you. You were really quarterbacking the show in my absence. It's nice to have that acknowledgement, because you really are doing a lot of great work. And luckily, as of recording, it's only got 6.5 more weeks of this being away from home and this busy school schedule I got going on, and then it'll be back to basics, and we're both very much looking forward to that. But you'd never know as a listener, and I've gone through and listened to, and just looking at the regiment of the episodes being released, like not a beat missed, and that takes a lot of work. And thanks to all the guests that have stepped up too while I've not been around. So it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah, it's only a personal that we notice it, as we're not recording every
exactly.
So that's it is for us.
That's relieving.
I think this is since that time in December last year, where we recorded a lot, but then we had I think it was like a 2-week break where we didn't record anything. That was the longest thing at the time. I think still doing pretty good, considering that you are pretty busy right now, and then still found the time to do 4 episodes, I think. Since
by the end of for spooky season,
since this is and that's a decent amount, considering that you are pretty busy. I mean, we both are, but you are
right.
Your schedule is way more demanding, I guess, right now. Done the best. I think we're doing a really good job, all things considered. And I'm glad you can't really tell. So thank you guys for that. You can't really tell. They do. There is a push. Like, we can't wait to hear us talk about news again. I noticed that element is missing right now, but I kind of excuse it as doing Tales of Horror. It was going to be put on the back burner. I'll probably do a news episode with another guest soon to kind of compensate for having not talked.
There's been a lot of juicy developments.
Yeah, but I know it's different when we're not talking about news. That's what they're trying to say, that we haven't really discussed it in a while. But by the time you come back, on a more a schedule that's more consistent, it'll be December, it'll be award season. There'll be a lot of news to talk about.
True.
We're already in the kind of the start of it. Like, the Gotham Award nominations came out today. That's kind of the beginning of award season stuff. So by the time we are back fully, that's will be something for us to talk about. And Christmas movies. I don't know if that's gonna happen again. Tales of Horror was always meant to come back. That little mini Christmas thing. Even though your mom thought the little Christmas video was very cute, that playlist made when it came out.
She loves that sort of stuff.
I think if anything, we might throw in some unconventional Christmas movies this year, maybe to kind of make it.
We can't not address the Christmas season.
Yeah. So, but I know you'd rather return for award season discussion and stuff like that, rather than
big time.
Rather than
I got a lot of
Polar Express or anything like that.
I still got a lot of 2024 releases to catch up on, especially more streaming originals and stuff that'll be considered for awards. So December and January will be big catch-up months for me as far as new releases, and that's traditionally been the case for me. I'll go see the movies that I've been most anticipating in theaters, but generally I'm picking from my DVD collection, or I'm watching stuff that you've sent me that we're chatting for an episode, more so than I am browsing streaming. and I miss a lot of good stuff that way. So once we get a
Oh,
good list of what we think is going to be some highlighted during award season, I got to buckle down and get some watches in for
yeah.
sure.
Have you seen The Substance yet?
Not yet. Actually, I don't know
Oh,
where to
it's
find it. Is that a Prime?
I think it's on some streaming service called Movie. I've never heard of it. It was like in theaters and stuff. And it's doing pretty well.
I don't know
But
if it came where I'm
I
at.
do have a copy of it. I can send it to you if you want to watch it. It's
I do. It's going to be one that I'm
damn good.
absolutely. It's been on my radar since all the hype, and I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to it for sure.
I was shocked because it's like 2.5 hours, and so that was like when I saw that I was like, ooh,
I
that's
did not
long.
know that.
I was like, that's really long. Hope it moves, and it does. It moves pretty fast.
Nice.
And good year. I always have one person I'm rooting for during the award season, and this season
Is it Demi Moore?
Demi Moore
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
I can't wait for her performance.
Not saying that I even think I think a nomination would be a win for her. Like if you get nominated for a body horror comedy satire,
Yeah, like when has that ever happened, right?
But they think that she can, so it's only if the Academy doesn't ignore it because they're not really.
Okay, I gotta see this.
Yeah, horror movies they can be kind of like they can turn their nose up to them sometimes. Like, I mean, most recent examples being like Toni Collette, Hereditary.
Which I just watched the other day. Again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Some people thought Lupita Nyong'o and Us. I know that might not be one that you think is, but like some people did.
I love Lupita Nyong'o. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm a little bent over that movie. But no, you're right. Regardless, good performance, and it's very common that horror performances are passed up, but maybe this will break the cycle this year.
Yeah, and also one last thing before we get into the movie, I mentioned something I put on my story. I kind of feel like challenges came out too early in the year and it's getting forgotten about.
I saw that post of yours.
Yeah, it did get a Best Feature nomination at the Gotham Awards, so that's a good sign that maybe the movie will get. And also, it's Golden Globes. They submit it's getting submitted as a musical or comedy for the Golden Globes, and it's not a musical or a comedy at all. There's definitely funny moments in it. There's funny lines, but it's not
as there are in many straight up dramas.
Yeah.
Right?
That was just the Golden Globes trying to make sure it gets in, I think, for something.
Yeah, but appreciate that, but
yeah, I still hope wasn't 2 years early in the year for it to get some recognition.
Totally with you, and we had predicted that might be the case earlier in the year when it came because it came out in March, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty close to like freaking Dune Part 2. I mean, that I guess you can't ignore Dune. Right? I guess you can't ignore that because that's going to get nominated for some stuff. But it would be nice to see it, but sometimes at the end of the year, there's all those like festival movies, and they come out of nowhere, and then and then they dominate like a lot of the conversation. But hopefully, like just don't forget about it. It's there. It's good. Still one of my favorite movies of the year. It's second right now to the other movie we were talking about. So I, at least for me right now, I have it second to The Substance at the moment.
Really? The Substance is your favorite of the year?
Yeah, so far, yeah.
Wow-wee. Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait till we have to do those lists. I don't know if it's going to change at all, but
right.
Yeah,
I'm expecting mine will be all over the place. I've been keeping my tab. I keep that list of favorites of the year, best of the year on Letterboxd, and so far, I think Dune is still up there. But I might have to go do an assessment, and it's going to change rapidly. Like once I get all my catching up done, and I see a lot of the great releases from this year that I haven't had the chance to see yet. But just before we get into the descent, I did make some time to check out Rebel Ridge a couple weekends ago and was floored at how great that movie was.
Oh, really? I heard it was really good.
Oh, dude, check it out. If you've seen Green Room and Blue Ruin, I take it by Jeremy. Yeah. I didn't realize that this was his next project. I've really been a big fan of his since Green Room. That was like one of the movies that I went out of my way to see in theaters, like as I was like developing as like a cinephile, I guess. So I've been big on him for years. Haven't heard his name in forever, and then I kind of blew off. Rebel Ridge is like a Netflix straight dumb action story. Maybe a little bit of better
easy to do that though. That's
easy to do.
To be fair.
Then my buddy saw it, said it's Jeremy Saulnier. You got to go see it, and I loved it. So check it out if you get the chance before the end of the year. I'm not saying it'll be your favorite of the year, but it was quite an awesome story.
Nice.
So that's high up on my list right now. But yeah, it's subject to change for sure. But the descent. Under the topic of discussion. I mean, what to say? How many times have you seen this movie? For once, this wasn't a first-time watch. I've seen this movie several times, and it's actually kind of become a staple spooky season watch for me. I want to say this is the third year in a row I've watched it in September, October. And I've seen it for many years. I think I saw it when I was like an early teenager. For some reason, I don't know. I don't really remember the first time I saw it, but I've always been a big fan of this film. But I didn't really know your experience with it.
I did see it in theaters. I feel like there's always a conversation we talk about movies.
Yeah,
like this. Just because, the age gap. I saw it in theaters.
Sort of terrifying in theaters.
Yeah. So it was one of those movies I saw in theaters with friends. That was like it was a mixed reaction from the friends though, who
really
felt that it started slow and it took forever for things to happen. But I felt the first time I watched it, and I feel it every time I watch it. I've seen it a lot. The movie is scary before the monsters show up.
Yes, it is a great tense thriller well before any monsters hit the screen.
Yeah, like I remember the first time I watched it, I almost forgot that there would be monsters in the movie because I was like I am like I can honestly say I'm claustrophobic. I do not like getting close spaces, so like it's already a tense movie at that point because there's so many shots in the movie that recreate that so well, like just their feeling of like being closed in. So I was like, all right, this is already a lot. And also even before they get to the cave and everything, just the way the movie starts, like everything about it is so jarring. And Love Acid doesn't have to do with the horror. It's just like almost like it's just the horror of like life of that this character is going through. And so you kind of forget that like you were what was being promoted to you was this cave movie about monsters that attack these girls. And because it takes, I think it's almost an hour into it, or a little over an hour.
I think it's somewhere around 50 minutes, and it's only an hour and 39 minutes, so it's right in the halfway mark.
So before they show up, but I do remember that certain horror movies I see with my friends in theaters, that's how they react to them. If it doesn't like scare them right away or get their attention right away, it get a lot of like, oh, that was boring. I mean, it was slow. And then I realized I can't see certain horror movies with some of my friends. So I was like, all right,
yeah, fair enough. It is a common criticism I hear. Like, we call this build up.
It's nice. A slow burn, if you will.
Slow burn. I mean, even then, like 45, 50 minutes isn't that bad, right? Like I'd say Hereditary earns that title of a slow burn, where only the real like last 20 or 30 minutes are terrifying. The Descent, it doesn't reveal really. I love there's actually a quote. It is directed by Neil Marshall, who's a Brit. And I don't know the context of where this quote came from, but basically like one of the concepts that he was working on in regards to the plot of this movie is he wanted to craft this movie plot wise. And he's quoted him, or I don't know if this was like another collaborator in the movie, but somebody said, make the movie so like when it can't get any worse, then make it worse. So just kind of harkening back to like this terrible situation that this group of girls goes in by getting like trapped in a cave that they come to realize they've been duped into exploring without any safety measures. No one knows where they are. It's not the system that they were led to believe they were going down. And then there's a cave collapse and they're trapped there. And at that point, you're 40 minutes into the movie, and I'm showing my girlfriend this for the first time, and I'm like, it's only been a year since I saw it, but I feel like last time I saw it, I just didn't really appreciate some of the things. So I was like, we're well beyond or well before any of the big creature feature starts. And this is already like a claustrophobic thriller. She's terrified just at the premise of being trapped in this unknown cave. And we haven't even seen the monsters yet. And I like, that is brilliant to like, it reminded me of Barbarian a little bit.
Yeah.
Where like we are kind of led down and teased about what it might be, and then some curveball comes from down the hallway, and now it's a different movie. And The Descent very much feels like that, or Barbarian feels like The Descent in that way. But really appreciated that angle, and it is a situation that goes from bad to worse in dramatic fashion. Yeah,
this is the first time I actually paused it to see how long it takes for them to pop into the movie. I mean, I knew it was a while, and I've seen the movie so much, but I was like, how? Like, I want to know, like, and when I found out like how late it is. It doesn't matter to me. Like I was fine with it, but like it was just kind of like I can't believe it took that long for it to happen. But everything else is so good and so tense, and that like the monsters are just like an added bonus. And like it's great that like and in the first reveal of it, and I kind of wish I didn't see the trailer a long time ago. Like I remember seeing the trailers for this movie before the movie came out. And the trailer does give away the first sighting of the monster with the camera and like the was it the
night
green light or
vision?
whatever, like the night vision.
Yeah, that is
But
such a
still,
great
it still
reveal.
it still works. Like I think it's like I think showing like, is there anybody there or something, and she just turns the camera and it's just there, and it's it still works even though it's coming. It's a great reveal for
It is.
the first image that you see of them, and I'm glad that they still like because of where they're at, it's almost this cover of darkness in this cave. You don't really see a lot of them like too close up or like too in full like light or color or anything like that, and I think that's an added bonus too, that they're still kind of covered in a bit of darkness, a bit of mystery. Yeah. So that moment, that first reveal still gets me every single time, even though I know it's coming. But it's such a good way to do that, and it's a good subtle way to do it, because it could in any lesser movie they would have had something just pop out and grab somebody, or like it would have been fully displayed in camera, like, and it wouldn't have been as good. And I'm glad that they make you earn it, which is like the best part about the movie.
Exactly. I love, even just before that big first like total reveal of the creature, we get a subtle little glimpse of one kind of going behind a corner, in the sense I think it's Sarah, the character, the lead, that sees it and isn't quite sure what she's adamant that she saw somebody, but we as the viewer don't get a great look at it. We can tell that there's like this pale figure going around like some rocks. I love that scene because that's right after the cave collapse, and there's some tension and some drama going on beyond the girls, and Sarah kind of sneaks off just to be alone for a second. At this point, the movie's already like full throttle, like things are going south, getting worse with every minute. And then we see that they're not alone down there. We don't know what it is or who it is or what their intention is, but there's somebody down there. And at that point, then the movie really turns gears, and then it leads into that bigger reveal with the night vision, which is such an effective scare. Yeah, and love like how they introduced them.
Yeah, and the really good thing about the movie too is I remember one time I watched it at home with a friend, and he really thought we put the wrong movie on, because it starts in a way that doesn't like feel like that's what you're about to watch. Like what you find out later is going to be happening, and you have this whole situation with Sarah and like the opening, which is a very jarring. The family, very jarring opening scene, and then that little fake out dream that she has at the hospital, and then like kind of running into her friend's arms and collapsing in her arms, and like that's when you kind of realize that they're all they're gone, and like her family's gone, and it's such an interesting reveal. But then you get the title card, which I remember my friend was like, "What a way to start this movie!" That I thought it was gonna be something completely different. But the good thing about it though is, you have this whole setup where there's already this drama set up between the friends already.
Which Juno and Sarah,
which could very much happen in real life, right? You wouldn't be. There's no point of like kind of telegraphing like there's going to be monsters in this cave or anything like that. It should be a normal situation between a group of friends. There's tension. That is what makes the movie interesting. Is that like the fact that it almost makes you forget that you're going to get this other thing
exactly
in the movie, and that tension is already so good too. I mean, you have this big, awful thing that happens in the beginning, and then you have, of course, particularly Juno, who wants to like, I guess has all this guilt. I mean, it wants to make this trip kind of like, because there's all this guilt attached to it. It's very realistic motivation for the characters. Now, I would be so mad if I had a friend that lured us in the wrong thing. I like keep me in the loop would have been great. Or also, I would not be on a trip like this at all. I would not. I would not go explore cave.
I would go cave explore. I meant to say this earlier when you brought it up. I'm not claustrophobic to a degree. This movie takes claustrophobia to the extreme. I don't think anybody could be calm going through what these ladies do. So yeah, there's no way I would be going in those caves where your chest can't even expand because you're so tight. But like simply rappelling down, and I think that would be pretty cool to do. I did it in like they call a cenote in Mexico, which is basically a cave that has water and you can rappel down and chill in the water like in a floaty. That was pretty cool. But if you're claustrophobic, this movie's a nightmare for sure.
I think I'd be that one friend in the group that was like, man, I wish I could go, but I gotta work. Like I can't get it off. You guys have fun. But yeah, you said your girlfriend was like kind of the claustrophobic scenes like got to her. Like the same with me. I mean, every time I watch it, I just that feeling of like not being like you. How'd you mention it? Like you can't even like when you're trying to breathe, like you can't even like move your chest. Like that would like
exactly
that would like terrify me, and I think probably would
I don't like
freak
that.
me out to the point where most people overreact and spaz out when they are in situations like that because
hyperventilate. Exactly.
Yeah. And that would be me. So
that would be me too. Absolutely. In this place, I don't mind being smudged in a like tightly compacted car or the window seat on a plane or like in a crawl space basement. I'm fine in those environments. But yeah, you would never catch me doing anything that these girls do. I admire the risk takers, but one thing during the cave collapse scene, like when they're kind of getting in the more tightly woven pieces of rock and they don't really know where they're going and the cave collapses and cuts them off, I was like considering it, and in hindsight it kind of feels silly that I couldn't tell, but I had a moment where I thought out loud to Kaden, my girlfriend, and I was like, I can't tell if they drug cameras down into a cave system and are filming it there, or if this was a built set. I literally cannot decipher what I think it is. And in preparation for the episode, I looked it up, and turns out they did build these sets, and like amazing job. You would never know.
At all.
Very convincing.
Yeah, I would have thought they just went down and like found a good spot to like film this and somehow got all the equipment down there to film
like
this
handheld
movie,
cameras or something. Like you could pull it off, but no, they built like something like 21 or 23 artificial sets to film in, and like they would relight some and add some different obstacles so that they could repurpose them for different. That is one, like, it's not much of a criticism plot wise, but just to follow, like for continuity's sake, I did find it completely jarring once like the lights are off and the creatures attack for the first time. I lose all sense of space and time and relation of which character's where. At that point, it's out the window for me. I can't follow who's where, what part of the cave system they're in, but it doesn't really matter
as well.
Who's tough. Yeah, it's a very darkly filmed movie.
But I guess Simon Bowles, he was the one that designed the cave stuff. They built 21 cave sets, and then Simon Bowles designed the Mesa caves, and Rod Vass built the cave sets with his company as well. And I forgot about the movie The Cave. I guess it's like came out right before it. Not as well received overall, but I vaguely remember seeing it. I don't remember much about it, but kind of had the same I guess vibe, and like, and it had it was an American movie with a bigger budget too. And they said that The Descent was originally scheduled to be released in the United Kingdom by November 2005 or February 2006, but The Cave began filming 6 months before The Descent. The filmmakers of The Descent decided to release their film before The Cave, so they fast-tracked production to be completed by the end of February 2005. So they knew this movie was coming. At least I don't know if
they sound identical.
Yeah, they do. And like, and honestly, the poster for The Cave could easily be like an alternative poster for The Descent, like the cover art just looked up. But I don't recall. I mean, I remember the actors. Like, I know like Piper Perabo and Lena Headey and Daniel Day Kim, Cole Hauser. Like, pretty decent. Morris Chestnut, pretty decent cast. I just don't like. I just don't remember.
I recognize Morris Chestnut, but I can't remember. I'm looking up his filmography.
He's in Boys in the Hood. That's like one of his bigger movies.
Who's he playing? Boys in the Hood.
He plays Ricky. He's the brother that gets killed at the end.
Yeah, that's Ricky. Yes. Okay, that's where it is.
Yeah. Kind of want to check it out now. I don't know if it's not as good as The Descent.
Doesn't have as good ratings.
I don't hear it in the conversation of like The Descent has been mentioned as one of the best horror movies of the 2000s. So, I mean,
it's one of my favorites from that era, hands down, and it's brutally violent.
Yeah, very.
You know me. Like that part of it.
Yeah, and they make you earn it. And I don't know, on top of being claustrophobic, I don't know, snarling fucking monsters just ripping at you and biting at
ripping
you,
your throat,
ripping your throat, tearing your flesh. Kudos to the sound design, because it sounded. There's moments, if you have surround sound when you're watching it. I had also kind of had my window cracked, and there's like all the kind of stuff you would hear if you were out in this, like in a cave or before you even go in, with all like the nature sounds and stuff. I was like,
Right.
are there flies in my room? What's going on? There's like a lot of moments of that in the background.
Okay.
So kudos to the sound design on a good job, because it does sound great too. Like it's a very immersive experience once it really gets going.
Yes, great segue to a
to.
point that I wanted to bring up, just about the creature design and how they shot it. I didn't realize this until this watch, because I hadn't truthfully really dug into the movie that much before, maybe over the years, but forgot a lot of stuff. And this is a play that I love to hear that directors do. Andy Muschietti did it when he was filming It, and he kept Bill Skarsgård away from the child cast, the children. And so the same thing was done with the creatures and the main cast here, where that first shot that you talked about, where we see the creature in night vision. That was the first time that the actors saw the creature. So their reaction is genuine. They're terrified. They were running off set, giggling and screaming. I think that's such a great filming mechanism. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
super smart to do that. I always wonder when they decide to do that, because like you have to remember that like you're an actor. You're like, all right, I think you always have to be prepared for like surprises and improv and everything. So maybe actors are just built to be good to react to surprises. But I'm just wondering, like people like you or me, if they were like, okay, we're not going to show them this until we're shooting it, if we would like forget that we're acting for a second and like, try to knock one out or like
you at least get that first take of genuine fear, and if it works, it works. But I think they get paid off really well for this movie, and I would like to, as if I were an actor, like that's how I'd like to see something for the first time, like Michael Caine and Heath Ledger in the Joker scene, where he didn't see him, and like those reactions that you get, you can't replicate that once you know what's coming. So just a great decision in how they made this movie, and they really didn't know what they were getting. And I think that's
doing that to the children in It, is that cruel, or is that just smart? I mean, I guess it's smart. I mean, young.
You know what?
I
don't know.
I get why. I mean, and he did separate himself from them. Like he wasn't like their buddy on set. So that. Actually, I don't think it's cruel. I think it's smart. I mean, they know what movie they're in.
They know they're filming a horror movie. They're not toddlers. They're all teenagers. So I cut them some slack.
That's very true. I wanted to ask you, because like a lot of people have compared this favorably to Alien, and I want to know if you see those similarities. Are just in its like its pacing, how they kind of keep the creature hidden for majority of the movie. I think Alien, of course, plays its hand on like what's going on earlier than The Descent does. Like, but as far as like the pacing, tone, and atmosphere, that I've seen a few comparisons to that, and wanted to know what you thought.
I hadn't. You know what? It's so glaringly, obviously, a very similar plot, minus the setting. Once you say it, but it's funny. I didn't get, or maybe I did. I don't know. I don't really remember thinking about it. It is funny though, because right before filming the episode, I was just looking at The Descent, and on one of the different poster covers that I looked at, one of the taglines on it was the scariest film since Alien, or something to that regard. That's funny that's the benchmark they're comparing it to. Like hearing you mention it, very similar in plot and pacing. I will say that I think The Descent could also work if you take the creature away, where Alien, I'm not sure there's as tense story. Like you could probably create some conflict without the alien in the movie Alien, between like the different personalities on the Nostromo, and clearly not everybody gets along, and you could do something with that. But I think it's more convincing in The Descent, where we have alternate like things to be afraid of other than the creatures. Like that you can have a really cool splunking gone wrong story there.
Yeah, you take the monsters out, like The Descent's just a drama.
Exactly. It's
wrong.
Really a good one.
But
I do think the pacing is quite similar. And once we get, it's in the sense where, I'd say Alien, I wouldn't say it's nonstop. Like once we get the xenomorph, there's still pretty significant breaks in action, not necessarily intensity, but The Descent feels like it's pretty relentless after that first attack.
That first attack, that feel like they happen nonstop. It feels like there's very little relief once the first attack stopped. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, you had over an hour of like, I won't say like non-action for people expecting that kind of stuff. So they're like, hey, like, they waited this long, we're gonna just give it to them, and that it's good. I know I made the comment off camera and again about not really losing track of who is who. while watching it because it is a very darkly lit movie. The only ones I really know for sure are like Sarah and Juno, and then like once it gets chaotic, I just hear a lot of British girl voices, and
exactly.
I think so and so just died. Like you mentioned, Beth was one that dies first.
That's the one that Juno accidentally kills and then leaves for dead. So the first, that's the only other name I could really tell you. I think, and then Holly is like one of the younger sisters of somebody, and I don't know. I couldn't even really tell you how she goes.
Yeah. And I think that might be an example of the key difference, and I don't mean this as a judgment, like for people comparing it to Alien, is I will say it's cool to watch. You have a group of like badass women in the movie. They're not all kind of like waifs. They're not like all. I mean, they are frightened in the situation, but some of them do take action, and that is
they're very confident,
very, very confident and proactive. So I do think that's cool. I know that Sarah's our de facto main character, but it's not that it needs a Ripley by any means. I just don't think it has one because there's so many characters in it, and that would be the only comparison that I would take away, like the Alien to Descent comparison. They're just not like
for sure.
Even though I thought all the actors are, even the ones I lost track of at the darker it got, they're all very good. I just didn't find myself like. Once the action starts, it was hard for me to latch on, even though I did latch on to Sarah in the beginning, and then like the tension between her and the Juno and all that stuff. You lose it once the action starts, and then you kind of lose track of like not what's going on necessarily, but like who's who, and now it's just like a free for all at that point once the action starts.
One thing I will say in the defense, like not defense, because again, like I don't need to defend this movie. It's fantastic. And comparing it to Alien, I'd pick Alien every time. But I do, if we're talking like, if we want to look at the tension between the characters, Ripley and Veronica Cartwright's character, I don't know why I'm blanking on her character's name.
I don't know why I'm blanking too, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So their tension in that movie is like one of those like highlighted things in the plot, and like there's some historic like beef between takes and stuff of them not getting along, but I do buy into Sarah and Juno's tension and beef in The Descent, I think a little bit more, just because as an audience we know that there's more going on underneath the surface long before Sarah really catches on to it, and I think that is a really great dynamic to this movie that's I just think is a little bit more effective than two women in the crew who are kind of just sick of each other and not getting along in a tense situation where like with Juno, we know that she was cheating with Sarah's husband before he died, and then Sarah finds that out in a really horrific way later.
No,
I just think I really buy into it. And like, I don't not like Juno as a character. She's like made some bad decisions, but like, I still think she's a great character in this movie, despite she's also affected by that loss of Paul in the beginning too, right? It's not just like Sarah's issue, it's also hers, but Sarah just doesn't realize that. But I think Juno was great at being a character that you would love to hate but can't help but enjoy.
And I feel like that's the intention, right? That you were supposed to maybe not like her, but she, much like the movie itself, she's very nuanced. There's a lot going on there, and
she's very capable. She doesn't make dumb decisions beyond getting involved with one of her best friend's husbands. Like she's a great constant throughout the movie. So it's like I like this character, even though she's made some, she has some lapses in judgment.
Yeah, but it also makes her like that's part of the guilt she feels, right?
Exactly.
There's the guilt of like I did this stuff with my best friend's husband, but then there's the by maybe trying to fix that in a real way or making sure this trip is really successful for my friend who went through all this trauma. So there's like so much more going on than like what would typically be happening in a like this could easily be a B horror movie, easily be one. But like they give the characters, I guess, a bit more layers. Now I feel bad saying what I said. I guess I just really you lose track of like them like once.
No, you're totally right about that.
Once the action starts, so then it's like okay, I don't know who am I really supposed to be like. At this point, they all look like they're drenched in blood and screaming, and I mean, but not total detriment at all. But sometimes I like to have like one person to really latch onto.
Yeah, I agree. In this movie, it isn't really like, even though Sarah's our lead, like a lot of times when she's soaked in blood, I can't even really tell who's who. I mean, so I don't.
Some pretty cool iconic shots of her soaked in blood. I mean, they use a lot of the they've used that in some posters. Like that's one of the most like images you see from the movie. So very cool, like horror art.
Let me ask you this: creature or character, what is the most effective death or kill to you? Like, what's the standout? Because there's a lot of creatures die, and virtually all of our main cast,
Die.
Spoil, die. It's 20 years old, pretty much, but
yeah,
not a lot of people make it out. So, what's the best one for you?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best, but I'm always find accidental deaths pretty jarring. So the one with the we mentioned earlier with Beth is like always like that kind of stuff surprises me because like you're expecting, right? Once the like whatever's gonna happen, either the cave can take one of the girls out, the monsters can take one of the girls out. But when it's this personal kind of accidental thing with a friend, I remember showing that when I watched it with some of my friends, that was the one that was the most surprising to them. And then also like how they're going to react to this, and then also how do you react to it? Because you're in this impossible situation now. You've done this impossible thing, and there's not any time to address it. You can't really. It's almost like it's like in the look you can tell how like sorry she is,
distraught she is, like
distraught,
and
like that's by her attention at all. But there's not much you can do about it, and that is the one that is most like emotionally jarring to me. I was like. Caught me off guard because I was expecting the elements or a monster to take these girls out, and great move writing wise to write that in there because it's completely surprising and I didn't expect it when it happens. So that's probably the one that stuck with me the most.
What I love about that too, like Beth's death, is in the moment when it happens, like I don't think the movie frames it as like Beth meant to, like it later in the movie, once Sarah finds Beth still alive and bleeding out and she euthanizes her in like horrific fashion by bashing her head in. She says like, Juno did this to me. And like at that moment you're like, holy shit, yeah, Juno did. I mean, obviously accidentally hits her in the throat with the pick. And then she does leave her there. I assume that Juno thinks, okay, Beth's done for. I gotta get out of here.
She's gonna die.
But from Beth's perspective, it's like, holy fuck, Juno just slashed me in the throat, left me here, didn't even like make sure I was out. And then you're like, oh man, like you can tell Sarah's like, okay, Juno's got to go, like all this stuff on top, and now she like takes out Beth and leaves her for dead. I still like, as a viewer, I don't look at that as like, I'm on Beth's side for that one. Like I don't think it's like an intention for her to just leave Beth for dead. I feel like she thinks, oh, it's she's about to bleed out. I got to get out of here. But from Sarah and Beth's perspective, it's like, yeah, Juno, what the fuck?
That's interesting because like that would frame Juno as like an evil person. I think,
but I don't get
that. I never got that impression. That there was some finality to what that looked like. That looked like she was going to die. Like she would like bleed out, and that.
What could you do?
What could you do? What else could you do? Now I guess like, and again, they're also in an impossible situation where. There's not time for a conversation or like how do you like this is just how it's going to be. And I also wonder in a character's position like Juno, like is it hopeless at that point? Like are we all going to die in here or like how's this going to work? But I also think that since Beth is bleeding out and she's dying, I almost think that she's just saying it not as a way to demonize her, just like this is just a matter of fact statement, like
I suppose,
so that's what it kind of feels like.
I always interpret it as Beth like telling Sarah, like warning her, like you got to look out for Juno, but it might just be her just saying.
But that's also a really cool way to look at it too. That it could be like, you gotta watch your back now, that kind of situation. Oh, but also find another way to euthanize me though if I need to go.
Please don't bash my head in with a rock.
I guess that was the like when I was watching that, I was like, I guess she was suffering, but
it's better than getting eaten by the creatures, but man, that is rough. Yeah,
there's like no real, good alternative to
there's really not.
But when I was like, because most people find easier ways to do that in movies when like aren't it reminds me of like I don't remember you remember watching Texas Chainsaw the remake for the show when the guy he's hanging up on the hook and his foot's already cut off. And she's trying to get him off. She's trying to get him off the hook, and then like
and she's just fucking him up worse.
And she's fucking him up worse. And then she like drops him real hard on it, and he's just like, "Kill me!" And she stabs him really slowly in the gut. I mean, like with a knife, and
Yeah,
I was
like,
like,
you're not doing it right.
Right, you're doing this all wrong, dude.
Just give me the knife. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is also horrific. I don't know which one's worse. And maybe
Yeah.
the meat hook's a little bit worse, but yeah, poor
Yeah.
Beth. I think in reality you would bleed out much faster than she did. But
Yeah.
speaking of alternatives, is another question I had for you. I was a little bit disappointed, not the movie's fault, but in how I had to watch the movie this time around. I had to rent it on Prime because I'm far away from my
Yeah.
DVD collection, and that was just the first place I saw that was streaming it. So what ending did you watch this time, and have you seen the different endings of this movie? And if you have, what's your preference?
So there's like an extended one, right? Like as far as like, or is it unrated, or how do you
The
determine like what
original,
the
yeah, UK ending is different than the American edit.
So I watched the UK one, so that's what I have. I do know, I am aware of both. I
Right.
only
Have you seen
because
both?
I've seen it in theater, so I do remember that being the case, that it was different. Um, I don't know how I feel about, because I knew this was gonna be a topic of conversation. I'm like,
Yeah.
it. I really don't know sometimes. So like I don't know how I would want to end something like this. Because yeah, because there's a sequel, right? That they made a second one that
Yes.
is directed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that kind of, if you want to count it as I guess canon, because like that, that it gives you an indication of what happens with those two particular characters, I guess, in that second
Mhm.
one. Um I know I prefer the more bleak. Sounds really bad.
Okay.
More
So
bleak
the
ending.
original ending where
Yeah,
she
I prefer bleak.
hallucinates getting out, and
She
then
had
he's
this a
actually
whole
still
getting
in
out.
there.
Now I remember
Yeah.
that being another bone of contention, because this is the difference between, that will always be the difference, I guess, between U.S. audiences and non, especially when it comes to horror movies.
Yes. Big difference.
International overseas horror films, especially, they are not afraid to give you a very bleak, no hope ending at all, right?
Right. And that's where I tend to lie. Like, that's what I
Yeah.
like.
Now they talked about that with like something like Speaking No Evil, which I actually thought the American one was, I will eat crow. It actually was good.
I've heard good things about it too. I was
um,
surprised.
but the big switch up is in the climax, and the climax for the original movie is bleak. It's very much like, and I get it, and it works for them. And I can also get why they changed it here, because we're just still no matter how many years in history of watching movies, people want, for the most part, to have a happy ending, or in that regard. Maybe not for every character, but at least for someone. And so I understand the change. I understand the change
You're
up.
right.
But like for horror films though, and I don't mind bleak indies, and I kind of loved the kind of fake out of like,
I love it too.
I would like, I'm going with it. All right, if this is like they're getting out, or she's getting out, whatever. Like, I'll go with it. I mean, on the one, I think I can do it both ways. I could be the guy that's like, all right, she's been through enough. Like, might as well let's get let's get her out of, like, let's get her out of the situation. I mean, we watched her go through a lot at the start of the movie up until this point. So it's like, all right, I'll be cool with it. But then I also think it's kind of brave to do the switcheroo like that. Like,
And I do admire that too, because so my DVD has the original ending. I don't know if there's a choice, or if that's
yeah,
just the one I always watch, because I haven't watched the DVD in a year or two. But yeah, it's always the one where Sarah gets out, escapes in the Jeep,
yeah,
has that vision of Juno in the shotgun seat, and then she wakes up,
yeah.
and all of a sudden she's back,
Maggot, yeah,
just out of reach of the end of the cave, and like there's that awesome pan outwards, and you just see how hopeless her situation is. And I can't remember if you actually see the creatures sort of approaching from underneath, or if I'm just thinking of something else. But borderline, it's like, yeah, it's insinuating she's not getting out.
yeah.
So that's my DVD, and this time, like I said, I had to watch it on Prime, and it has the American ending where it just ends on that jump scare of Juno in the shotgun seat, and it insinuates that she gets out, and there's just
Yeah.
that one last little cheap jump scare before the movie ends, which I've
Little
never been a
Carrie
fan
moment.
of. But like you said, and I'm thinking about it now, and this kind of goes against what I would normally like want out of my endings. But you're right, because we see Sarah go through so much tragedy, it almost feels cruel to have her not get out in the end. Like, I would be more okay with that ending if it was just an objective group of girls and like we didn't get Sarah's backstory of her family's death. If it was just let's throw these 5 women all equals into the cave and then that be the ending for Sarah, I think I would maybe support that ending more. But like you just see, it looks like she's going to get out because of everything that she's overcome, and then to face off against the creatures, it makes sense that she'd come out and that would be her win. But I guess it's not what was in the cards for this movie. But anyway, I do like the bleak ending as well.
It's a really like realistic ending too. I mean, like for most likely you wouldn't get out of that. I would hope for the best, but I think what it makes it a gut punch too to like showing like getting out of there after dealing with all that stuff and getting out. And there's like a little sense of like sadness where it's almost like she wakes up and like, or you're like, oh, she's still like in the same spot that she was in, and you're like, no progress has been made, and you're just like, no, like, and it's bleak and it's sad. But I think they actually did make a comment about it. The director said that American audiences do not like its finales to be uberly hopeless. And Lionsgate marketing chief Tim Palin said, it's a visceral ride, and by the time you get to the ending, you're drained. Director Neil Marshall had a number of the endings in mind when he shot the film, so he was open to making the switch. Meaning, I feel like they wanted him to make the switch. More than he wanted to. And Marshall compared the change to the ending of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, saying, just because she gets away, does that make it a happy ending? The ending is featured on DVD as an unrated cut in the United States, so you get either one that you want. That is interesting to compare to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because Sally does get away at the end of that, but she probably won't be okay.
She's traumatized for life.
Traumatized for life, right?
Her friends are dead, her brother's dead,
But it definitely feels like a studio mandated, like, and he's right, though. Like, American audiences don't really like hopeless endings like that. They want someone to survive. But it's also realistic. I mean, I think it's brave to go there. I mean, a lot of American horror movies don't do it all the time, and when they do, I'm completely surprised that it's usually like the more independent like ones here that do that. When they have big studio back then, the studio usually comes in and says like, hey, like, let's put a smile on like the audience's faces and have like one of these people survive, even though it makes
You know what else I thought was interesting, and I don't know why I never really considered this until this watch, but you've got a United Kingdom like made film with a cast all of non-Americans. Like, I think every character, I don't know about the actors, but every character is basically from a different European country, save for Juno, who I think was characters from Hong Kong. But you set it in America. I just thought that was interesting,
and then filmed it in the UK. I mean, like that.
And filmed it. Okay, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, they filmed in the UK.
Figure that, but why are there not caves in somewhere in Europe?
That's another. That is an interesting thing. I wonder if that
like
that was done to make
Sweden
it appeal
must
to
have
like
something.
Yeah, they could have easily done it like not and said it in the US. I wonder if that was possibly trying to appeal to a
wider audience.
If that was the case, but I don't. I always think it's interesting because there's just a few movies that do that where they will set it in America, but you find out it was filmed entirely like in Europe. Like I know for some reasons it's like it's a budget thing. It's like cheap. Like sometimes they give them more incentive to shoot overseas and different things like that. But in this case, I don't know if that was the case at all. Like May said, most of it was filmed in Pinewood Studios near London. The cave was built in Pinewood Studios as well. Like there was no real big reason as to why
there's no American characters in the movie. They don't associate or even speak to any character once they leave Europe to go to the States. Just those 5 girls. Just interesting choice.
Interesting. Have you seen Blade 2?
Blade 2, yeah.
The creature design, they compared that a lot to how the vampires, like how those creatures look in that, and I didn't really realize it until they made that comparison. I guess I can see the vibe a little bit. I mean, in the grand scheme of like creature designs from like recent, and I'll consider this a recent horror movie. It's not that old.
Post 2000s is recent. It's still
pretty good. It stands out. I mean, they look very vicious and gross and disgusting. And the way they have them, and the way they have them move, it's like not just the way they look; it's the way they kind of move around. Like some of them are like pretty quick and like sneaky and like I
They
don't
can
know. It's
scale any
just,
rock surface.
wall.
Like
Yeah.
So get this,
but-
like once you'll totally, I imagine that you'll totally get this, and I didn't really consider it, but I did read too that the creature designs were modeled after like the 1922 Nosferatu character. I'm like, I totally see that.
You
Yeah,
can see
so
that
I
in
thought
the
that was
face.
super
Yeah.
neat. Yeah,
Yeah, you can totally see that. Yeah, I mean, I think like for you don't really get a lot of them. But I mean, when you do, they make it worth it. But I'm glad like they go by that whole like horror movie standard set by like Jaws and Alien and Halloween, like less is more.
yes,
And you don't need to really see them like fully up close and well lit light or anything like that. They're much scarier. The way they showcase them, and like and you get a really good sense of how visceral and like dangerous they are without having to see them up close and all that stuff too. Like it's all in like the movement and the like the sound design for them too. Like they become a presence without being having the need to be seen fully on screen.
You're in their home for sure, and that's enough to be like, we're out of our element here. These creatures are adapted to live here, and we are not. That's enough to even think there might be around the corner. You're screwed.
And I don't need to know where they came from.
No,
I
like the ambiguity. I know Neil Marshall has kind of touched on his idea for the origin of like the creatures, and it's pretty plausible as far as supernatural like horror movies go. But I like that it's what he had in store for them. They were like cavemen that just stayed underground and evolved over thousands of years, and that's just how they are. I thought that was pretty cool take. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I do want to say too, like one of the best images. I know they use it for like the poster and some of the DVD covers. I do love.
I already know what you're gonna say.
The skull, like that's so cool. And like it's really like it's not something I noticed when I first saw the image until like. Yeah, I really had to look at it the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, it's them, like just in the shape of skull. That's really cool. It's like a really cool piece of like graphic art.
So that is actually modeled after another artist whose name I can't remember. I just had it up before because I was looking at it. It was in the IMDb trivia. But there was a painting of Salvador Dali of the same thing, of like women in the shape of a skull, that this poster was modeled after. And I thought that was super. If you look it up, I just had it. But it's super, super cool. Philip Halsman.
Okay, that's it.
Salvador Dali in, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Latin or something, but voluptate mores. I'm going to just copy in the chat so you can have a look at it. But you'll see what I'm talking about once you have a look at that on Google. But super cool. If you see the image on Google Images, it's like, oh shit, you can totally tell that's exactly where he got the idea from. But I agree, it's always been a great movie poster. My DVD though is it's the image of Sarah kind of emerging from the blood pool, so she's like soaked in red blood. Yeah, I've always liked that too. It's a cool image from the movie.
Also, did not know that the film's marketing campaign in the United Kingdom was disrupted by the London bombings in July 2005. Advertisements on London's public transport system, including the bus that had exploded, had included posters that carried the quote, outright terror, bold and brilliant, and depicted a terrified woman screaming in a tunnel. So they actually ceased a lot of the promotion of the movie when it was coming out. Still, I can't find the budget in American dollars, but it apparently made a lot of money.
I found some numbers. I don't know what dollar value they are, but I saw a budget of $3.5 million. I'm assuming it was US dollars.
Okay,
I don't know for sure, but yeah.
And it made $57.1 million worldwide. So
that's the same number I got too. So that's like almost 19 times his budget. Like really successful.
It was a big commercial success. Has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. And we've talked about this. I brought up movies like It Follows and all these other movies that came out in the 2000s. A lot of people give some of these horror movies a distinction of being the best or one of the best of this period. Where do you think that it is for this, or like is it too much of a heaping praise?
I would keep my praise for like in the realm of its decade that it came out. It's undoubtedly one of my favorite 2000s horrors, but truthfully, I haven't really. You know what? That'd be a great rank. That'd be a great list to make on Letterboxd, I think, and this would be in there, I'd imagine. But I don't think it's the best horror thriller since Alien necessarily, but it is really great. I'd say it's one of my favorites from the 2000s, and I would definitely put it up against a lot of 2010s horrors as well. As far as creature features go, I'd say it's among one of the better ones. Claustrophobic thrillers. I love that it's an all-female cast too. That's really against the grain of the time too. Really works in the context of this movie. It's got a lot going for it. It's just a great watch. It's super rewatchable.
Yep.
Like I don't get sick of watching it
at all. It ended up on some top 10 lists in 2006. It was number 7 on Sight and Sound, number 10 by the Village Voice, and 10 for the Washington Post. It was ranked first on Bravo's 13 Even Scarier Movie Moments as well. Time Out conducted a poll with several authors, directors, actors, critics who have worked within the horror genre to vote for their top horror films of the 2000s, and of all time actually. And The Descent placed number 39 on their top 100 list.
That's a great spot for this movie.
Most reviews are very, very good. I always like to point out like -1 just in case, because I think it's interesting. Yeah. Lawrence Topman of the Charlotte Observer said he thought a weakness of the movie was the failure of the writer to explain the evolution of the creature. Though he said their clicking and howling used for communication makes them more alien, this otherness gives humans permission to mutilate them without seeming too disgusting to be sympathetic. And then the Chicago Tribune said all the crawlers should have been left out of the film entirely. Says watching those gray slithering beings chasing and biting women makes it hard to maintain any suspension of disbelief.
Well, I mean, yeah. Not every movie. I just always find that funny when people say that movies are not realistic, as if they're expecting it to be a representation of reality. I just always find that funny. You're watching a movie. But yeah, that's great. There was something in there that I wanted to piggyback off of, but I can't now remember what it was. Shouldn't even have said anything. I hate losing my train of thought.
Sometimes it comes back to you when you when you.
That's right.
Speak it out. Is there anything else you want to add about The Descent that you think we missed?
Not so much about The Descent, because I've said my piece. I really enjoyed this movie. But if you haven't, I was just curious if you'd seen the only other real Neil Marshall movie that I had seen. I recognize a couple from his filmography, but the movie he did right before this called Dog Soldiers. It's a werewolf movie. Have you ever seen or heard
I
of that
have
one?
not, but I've heard of it.
And, that'd be a cool one to check out sometime. I watched it once. Cam and I watched it a couple years ago, and it's like I just saw it the one time. I would need another crack at it, but worth it. There's a pretty cool, again, British cast. And it's a cool contrast to this movie where it's an almost entirely male cast in Dog Soldiers. So it's a cool take on a werewolf movie. It's kind of like a Cabin in the Woods meets werewolves. It's pretty neat. Not the movie Cabin in the Woods, but like the setting.
Yeah, he did the 2019 Hellboy. I did not realize.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I saw.
But he's done some TV, like Game of Thrones.
Hannibal.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, he's done a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I won't take that away from him. I mean, but I saw Hellboy on there. I was like, "Ooh."
He struck gold with this one, though.
Might not even be his fault.
That's right.
Hellboy movie. I mean, this is a really cool, I wonder if there's so much pressure when you make a horror movie like this as a director to what do you have, what's coming from you next, or I guess I don't know how much. I don't know if Dog Soldiers has the same kind of cult following as this movie does. Or similar,
probably not as much, but within the horror community, maybe a little bit. But it's not a movie I see talked about often. But there's been some YouTubers that I've seen that have made videos on it before, and so people have given it some love. But I wanted to shout it out just in case you were ever down to watch it. Maybe we'll be talking about that other one sometime. But
no, definitely, I would. I haven't seen it, so I would love to check it out. It feels like Neil Marshall. He actually. We're not about the sequel because I've never seen it. I don't know why I've never thought about watching the second one.
I have no interest, honestly.
He was involved in it. He didn't direct it, but he was involved as a producer. So that's just like the money guy, or just to credit him for his idea. But he was asked about the film years after it came out about the sequel. He said it was totally unnecessary. He said the first film resolved itself. Whichever ending you choose, it wraps it up in a way that was bleak, whichever way you cut it. The second film began and it didn't pick up from either ending, which made it completely and utterly worthless. So I guess there's no need to see it. It has a 48% Rotten Tomatoes, which I actually don't think is horrible for a straight to DVD.
That kind of thing.
But Yeah, I mean, I guess it's time to score it. I keep bouncing back and forth on it, but I'll let you go first because it was your pick.
I actually got to, so just for the sake of consistency, I rated this on Letterboxd after I watched it, and I got to see what I put it there. I have an idea. Yeah, okay, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Not sure what I took away points for. But yeah, like I said, this has been a staple for me the last few years. I'll probably give it some time before I rewatch it, but it was fun to show it to somebody for the first time who I knew would be scared by it. That enhanced the experience. I'll stick around to it for years. Like, this is, like I said, always a good, thrilling watch. Never lets me down. I do need some time just to forget about some aspects of it so that I can experience it in a few years. But yeah, overall, really like it. It's been a staple. It's got everything I want in a horror movie in it. It even works great without the main horror antagonist, which I think is a pretty impressive feat. The female cast is all fantastic. The effects are great. I guess maybe some shoddy camera work once the creatures kind of come into play, maybe where I took away some points from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, really watch the original UK ending if you guys are listening and decide to check it out or are going to rewatch it. That's my recommendation. But however you spin it, if you're into stuff like this, I'm sure you'd enjoy it. Would you give it? What were you bouncing between?
So I was bouncing a little bit between like going a notch higher than what I was gonna like not too much of a notch, not a full like star, but like half. But I'm gonna go with 4 too.
Nice
as well. Yeah, it's just I mean, like I said before, it's a really good movie on its own before the other like really bad things start to happen. Like, there's
totally
like where you're like, oh, it's a monster movie too. like you guys really
it's a monster movie in disguise.
So like, I mean, there's like all these other layers to it too. I mean, it's an interesting thing, like the stuff you brought up about Juno, because you have like these actual monsters in the cave, and then you have to determine like, are amongst the friends, or at least the case of Juno, like is she a monster to you? There's a lot of things you can like talk about, like as far as like what he's saying screenplay wise in it. But I love that it's like this whole other story to start, and then it becomes this other thing entirely, which makes it more like realistic and more easy to kind of get lost in like the fear aspect of it, because you're like, if I chose to want to explore caves like this, I never do, but if I chose to, these are kind of like, minus the monsters, there's all these unforeseen circumstances that can happen in a situation like that. And that, I've always said that about the movie. I was like, it's scary before the monsters show up. Like, if you are not a fan of enclosed spaces,
this is not for you.
I think it's gonna be for you, but it's just a well-made horror movie. And I think it's also interesting, like, I don't know where I rank it as far as like the best of the 2000s horror movies, but I do think it represents an interesting time in horror where we were getting a lot of stuff, not just from us in like the States or like, North America. Like, there were a lot of like, this period was so good for like this movie. And like, I don't know if you've ever seen High Tension. Like, that's a very controversial movie with some people.
For a long time.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you do watch High Tension, don't watch the dub one. Just read do it with subtitles.
You know me, I would watch subbies anyway.
Yeah.
Wreck though from Spain is great.
Yeah. Also another good
great
one.
2000s international film. And then Martyrs. You ever watch Martyrs?
I've heard that was good too. I haven't seen it.
I think that's in the same vein as High Tension, where it's like really fucked up and it's on that iceberg list. Super, super good though.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting time for horror movies where we weren't just, the output wasn't just, other people were doing this a little better than us, I think, at that time.
There's a case to be made.
But yeah, still holds up well, and it's good for spooky season. So if you guys are looking for something to truly frighten you, even before monsters and ghouls show up, then this is a good one for you.
It's a good watch any time of the year for sure.
Yeah. And also, it's cool to see strong female characters too. Like the fact that there is no male, like, I mean, other than at the start, Paul, you get no other male characters in this.
Don't last too long.
This is a lady show, and they do a very, very good job, convincingly in their role. So, also want to give them shout outs as well.
This
outro is going to be interesting, guys, because I don't know exactly what episode number this is going to be based on what we've put out. It is coming out earlier in the week. I just have to look at it. I should have looked at it before we started, but whatever, it's fine. This will work for what we need to do it for. So, guys, thank you for listening to episode 2 something of Back to the Blockbuster. And it's way past a little bit past our 200th episode. So thank you guys for listening and being involved in that as well. And thank you for letting us extend Tales of Horror a little bit into November so Jackson can be on an episode. There'll probably be another one as well.
Do you want to tease what it is, or are you hiding it?
No, you tease it. Like, go ahead.
Yeah. So we're thinking later this week of covering Event Horizon from 1997.
Yeah,
cult classic. Really looking forward to discussing that. Just rewatched it. I think it was my third watch of it. Anyway, really excited to get into that. But yeah, that'll come out early in November. But we'll be the tail end of Tales of Horror. But looking forward to getting that in.
Also interesting production history and like some stuff that was lost from that movie. It's if you like filmmaking at all and just hate stories about how like what was the intention behind Event Horizon and in the studio and then lost footage and all this stuff, it's a really interesting tale of how that movie got made and how it kind of flopped when it came out, but then it definitely found an audience as a cult favorite. Considered one of the scariest sci-fi and space movies too. They think it's like a good one that ranks pretty high. So
definitely some alien comparisons
in that one as well.
For sure. Yeah.
That's well. But as always, if you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify. David just told me to mention Overcast. He listens to us on Overcast. It is shown our little image on Back to Blockbuster as an option. I just forget that it's there. So if you want to listen there as well, you can. Also, there is a playlist studio app and where you can listen to our show as well. If you have want to check it out in the Google Play Store or iOS Store, you can get it there. But listen to us wherever you want because we will take your listens from whatever service is your favorite. Also, there's YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. There will be more stuff going there after Jackson's schedule clears up and everything. We were probably one of the things that we will focus on in the new year on adding more content to that. But it is there just in case. Subscribe, and when that new content post and is there, you'll be able to see it. And other than that, it'll be soon back to some regular scheduled programming, at least for the show. Not quite for Jackson yet, almost.
Almost.
There will be more. There'll be more news, and there will be more anniversary episodes. There'll be less spooky season stuff, even though A Nightmare on Elm Street turns 40 in November, so that will probably be a good one.
Come out in November.
Yeah, I know when October was right there. But that will probably be another one that we cover. But we will soon be getting back to news and anniversaries and stuff like that too. But thank you for enjoying Tales of Horror. It seems like you guys have liked it. You liked it last year, but it seems like you guys have liked this one. I don't want to say more, but like maybe the film choices were a little bit more diverse and everything. So that I think that kind of helps.
I'm sure that'll be back in 2025. No doubt.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think that because Jackson and I both love horror movies, and we learned that early on doing this. And I was like, he won't object to a couple months of horror movies. So
no way.
Yeah, glad to bring that back next year. And of course, when we bring it back next year, Jackson will most likely be on a lot more of those. So that'll be the one difference.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I will be not in this program anymore at that point. Yeah. So it'll be back to the old way.
So yeah,
but in the meantime, though, it was great to be back on.
Yeah, and I thank you for finding the time to do this. Always a pleasure. I mean, I love doing it with doing the show with the guests, and it's great, and they keep the energy going. But it's a much different vibe when it's you. So always love having you on, and because kind of like the OGs. It's weird. Can you call you OG if you haven't been there from the start? But yeah, I wouldn't call you.
I don't know. Like, I appreciate the sentimentality, but yeah.
Still. Well, whatever. It's you're gotten used to a certain relationship, so it's good to have you on when we can, and I'm glad we've been able to work this out. I'm glad we did this movie. Excited for Event Horizon.
Yes, this was fantastic. Me too. Looking forward to it. That'll hopefully be this weekend.
Yep. And as always, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Take care, guys.